Welcome to our today's tutorial, and we will learn about control binding, whereby we are going to bind our controls with data from our SQLite database, and in our case we'll use the contacts table that we created in earlier tutorials. And as you can see, we've got a form with various controls, and here we've got the first button, the button named first. So when I click on this first button, it will take me to the first record, as well as when I click on the last button, it will take me to the last record of the contacts in my table. And the previous and the next buttons, they either move the cursor forward or backward with a single step. So I will double click to expose the code view, and one thing I will do is to import the required libraries, that is system.data and system.data.SQLite. Then I will create a connection string, and I will name it onString as string, and I will specify the data source as contacts.db, and I will specify the version of the SQLite database that I'm going to use to be version 3. Then I will create a data table object variable as data table. So here on my form, what I will do now is to write the code that will bind the controls with information from the contacts table in the SQLite database. And I will create a data adapter object SQLite data adapter, and here will supply an SQL statement: select all from TBL contacts, and I will also supply the connection string that is specified here on top. I will instantiate the data table, then I will use the fill method to populate the data table, which is a in-memory data source. So data adapter.fill, and I will supply the data table. Then after I've done that, I will now continue to write the bindings, the data bindings code, and I will specify the controls that I want to bind data: txt first name or text box first name, data bindings dot add. Then I will specify the data type to be text, and I will specify the data source as the data table, and I will also specify the column name for our contacts table, which is first name. So this means that the text box first name will be bound to the first name column in our contacts table. So I will copy this, I will copy, then I will paste to save on typing and type. last name, it will be text, and it's going to be bound to the last name column. Then we've got the combo box, gender, will be bound to the gender column in our contacts table. Then here we have the phone, will be bound to the phone column in our contacts table, and the same applies to email. That's the email column. And as far as binding controls is concerned, this is the data that we need. So I will run my project to see that it's working okay. And as we can see, the controls have been bound successfully with the data from my SQLite database contacts table. And here we can see the first name, last name have got values. Now we are going to write code such that when you click on the first, it takes us to the first record, and when you click on the last button, it takes us to the last record, and we can be able to navigate either forward or backwards using the previous and the next buttons. So I will close the form and come back to my navigation form and double click on the first button. Then I will specify that me dot bindings context. Then I will say me dot data table dot position. We are specifying the position for the cursor to be 0. I will copy this. So this will take us to the first position when we click on the first button. Then we'll write code for the previous. So here we need to first check that the position, if the position firstly is 0, that means it's on the first record, then to do nothing. Otherwise it can move us back with one step. So we'll say if me.binding.text equals 0, then we'll say exit sub. If not, then me.binding context. Then we're going to supply the data table, and the position will be me.binding context data table, then position and -1 to move one record behind. Then I'll go back to the navigation form, and we'll also write the code for the next. We also need now to check if the record is at the last record, and if it is the last record, then we need to do nothing. So I will say if dot position is greater than, then I will use the count property of the binding context. Then I will say then exit sub. That means do nothing. Otherwise, if it's not the last position, then we need to move one step ahead. So I'll just copy this, and I will just add +1. So basically it's the same code as the previous. We just add the plus sign to specify that you're going to move with one step. Then I'll double click on the last button, and here we are going to specify the data bindings for the last record, and we'll say the position equals count. So the position should be the total count for the data bindings. So I will save my project and I will run to see that it works fine. So here is our form. So when I click on first, nothing will happen, but when I click on next, it takes me to the next record. I can go to previous, or I can go to first, which is Sam, and I can go to last, which is Amy Winehouse. I can go to previous, next, first. So that is how we bind our controls to data in our SQLite database using the ADO.NET data providers. Thank you.